If you think your wife is too critical of you, complains, and criticizes you too much, then you need to watch this video. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. There's two emotions you're gonna feel at the end of this video as you're watching it. One, you're gonna feel kind of bad because you're gonna look at all the times that she did this to you and you're gonna see how your responses produced a feeling of pretty much like, damn it. But by the end, I'm gonna give you hope because in this video, I'm gonna give you 3 strategies on how to pass your wife's test and respond to her criticism to make her feel more attracted and respected by you and toward you. That increases the chances of you becoming happier together. My name is Josh Hudson. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. And for the past 8 years, I've been helping hundreds of men find and keep their ideal relationships by reaching their full potential and accepting themselves in the process. And I want to let you know, for a limited amount of time this week, we have a couple of spots open for our marriage mastery program. So if you're struggling to have the relationship you want with your wife and you feel like you're slowly losing her day by day, what you can do right now is click the link down below, set up a call, fill out the application with me or my marriage evaluator. And on that call, that free call, what we'll do is we'll evaluate your marriage and your situation and seeing what to do to best help her and help you restore the marriage to better than it was before. Now, one of the processes in this restoration period is understanding your wife. You know, men and women, we have more commonalities than differences, right? We all want love, respect, understanding. You can have a whole laundry list of things we have in common. But there are some differences with the ways we process emotion and express our needs through communication. This is why the most common problem in relationships is, I don't know how to communicate with my wife. This is because men and women have different styles of communication. And in this video, I'm gonna give you your wife's personal blueprint to pass every criticism and complaint. So let me start off with a quote from David Deida in The Way of the Superior Man. This is the Bible of understanding women. So by the way, check that book out if you want. So one of the quotes he says is, "A woman often seems to test her man's capacity to remain unperturbed in his truth and purpose. She tests him to feel his freedom and depth of love, to know that he is trustable. Her tests may come in the form of complaining, challenging him, changing her mind, doubting him, distracting him, or even undermining his purpose in a subtle or not so subtle way. A man should never think his woman's testing is going to end and his life will get easier. Rather, he should appreciate that she does these things to feel his strength, integrity, and openness. Her desire is for his deepest truth and love. As he grows, so will her testing." So what David Deida is essentially saying is that women, from an evolutionary point of view, they had to consistently test the man they were with. This is because women needed men for thousands of years to protect and provide for them. They cannot take care of themselves by themselves. That being said, they had to make sure that the guy they were with was a high value man that will always protect and always provide. And the thing is that over time, you could lose your edge. You could lose your high value. And so her consistent daily testing is making sure you are the first guy. So her consistent complaining, testing, criticizing, all the things David mentioned is for you to prove to her that you are the guy that she wants and loves. Now, this isn't happening on a conscious basis. When a woman tests you, she doesn't think to herself logically and consciously, you know what? It's time to test this. I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna criticize him just because. This is very unconscious, it's subconscious. They don't realize why they're actually doing it. For the same reasons, you probably don't realize from a deep degree why you're so driven to work and purpose and wanting to actualize yourself and become better. And what happens over time for a lot of men is that they have the false assumption that once they attract and keep their wife, I'm good, I'm done. I got her, I won her over, she shouldn't be a challenge to me anymore. But here's the thing, the world and woman will always be a test for a man. Because as a man, your goal in this world is to become the best version of yourself, whether you realize it or not. If you watch this channel, you probably realize that. And your woman is helping you become a better man through these tests. So now looking back at it with all this criticism and complaints, instead of thinking that, why is she being so difficult? Why does she have to be this way? You should look back at it and feel kind of bad because your woman was doing you a service and a favor to make you step up to be a better man. Now, before we go into the 3 ways to pass the test, let me share one more quote from his book. "The most loving women are the women who will test you the most. She wants you to be your fullest, most magnificent self. She will not settle for anything less. She knows it is true of you. She knows in your deepest heart, you are free. You are Shiva. And anything less than that, she will torment. And as you know, she's quite good at it." All right, so let's go over the 3 ways that people or men try to pass tests and how each one gets better and better. Well, the first one's actually not good at all. It's awful. It's logic always fails. Now, a prime example is with a lot of guys who come into the program, the Marriage Mastery program. Oftentimes, the first test a woman gives is she says, "I'm done." it's over. Hands in the divorce papers. Essentially gives the guy an idea that the relationship is going to end. And what a lot of men do is they try to use logic to pass that test. The biggest test a woman will give you is to say that we're no longer going to work out. This isn't working. I don't want to be with you anymore. As men, we take that as fact. Like, a word is gold. But for a woman, it's based off the way she feels in the moment. It's not something serious. This is really controversial for a lot of men to really adapt that belief. But if you understand women enough and operate through the framework I'm telling you, you start to realize it's truth, it's gospel. So what are the ways that men respond through logic with this test? They'll beg. They'll try to convince her, right? They will confront. They'll say, what about the kids? What about the wives? What about the years of memories they have together? How could you just throw all of that away? I remember one of my clients, he showed me a list of all these great memories and like, how could you throw this all away? Don't you remember the feeling you had with me in that moment? And his wife simply responded, yeah, those are great memories. Because what a lot of guys neglect to understand is that a woman is making her decisions based off the way she feels in the moment, way more than men. And by trying to use logic to convince her, one, it conveys to her that her emotions don't matter to you, and two, that you're becoming reactive. And we talked about masculine and feminine polarity in plenty of other videos that you can check in the playlist down below. However, essentially, when you go into this logical reactive state, you are operating from a lower value position, which only convinces your wife or girlfriend that she's making the right decision because you're failing her test. So when she says, you know what, it's over, we're done. And you're like, no, what about this? Like, you're becoming needy and she doesn't want to be with the needy guy. And this can happen not just with that big test. I mean, a small test example is, let's say your wife or girlfriend says, you're never home. I want you to be home more often. And you just started working out at the gym. Now, working out at the gym is very important for you to build yourself up as a man. And she's going to do things to push you off that edge, like off that purpose. Like, are you really consistent about this? Do you really want this? Do you really want to take care of your body? And she wants you to say no to her. This is important to me. But she's not going to tell you that, okay? Now, the second way is emotion always connects. Now, this is a really good skill, and it's not the best one, but it's not going to do any damage. This is the skill you learn with a lot of therapists and a lot of other emotional coaches out there, relationship coaches, and it's pretty good. So as an example, let's use the same really harsh example that a lot of you guys are really facing. If your wife is threatening divorce, wants space, all this stuff, right? The biggest test she can give you. Responding in an emotional way is using this exact framework word per word. You feel blank, right? Whatever emotion she's experiencing because of, whatever the context is. So one of the clients I was working with, Joe, he said that his wife wanted to ask him for space. All right. Now, the first time he used the logical approach and made things worse. Then he started to work through the program and she was starting to come back and they had a huge fight again. And again, she comes back with, I need some space. So instead, he didn't know how to use this one yet because he was still practicing at it. But he used the second one as a default using the emotional response. And he said, you feel concerned that we're not going to get better. That simple. And she goes, yeah, I do. And blah, 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 blah. And then he says, well, yeah, you've been feeling isolated lately and that's not a relationship you want to be in. The reason why a lot of men, we don't use this is because we think erroneously, if we reflect back the wife's emotions, that means we're agreeing to what she's saying. That's not the case. You're simply saying, I understand what you are feeling, what you believe. And it's counterintuitive, but the more you understand her and you reflect in your verbal reaction to her, that you understand the way she feels, the way she sees the world, the way she sees the situation, what happens is that her emotions subside and she feels more connected to you. And that connection brings you closer. Again, I'm gonna repeat this process for you again. If your wife says, let's make this really in its simplest form. If your wife says, our relationship is a triangle and I don't want to have a triangle relationship. A lot of men think, well, if I agree that our relationship is a triangle, then you're going to leave. Opposite's true. You say, look, you think the relationship is a triangle. She's like, yes, I do think that. From there, you guys are able to connect with each other because you have the similar shape. And then she feels calmed down, rational, and then you can state your case and she's more likely to receive it. Does that make sense? She cannot receive whatever your influence and your perception is if she's emotional. But by reflecting her emotions, she calms down, gets into that rational state, and then you can make your case. Seek first to understand, then be understood. What do you think always wins? Love does always win. But in regards to test, humor always wins. Okay, now this is more of a spiritual, esoteric concept. A lot of men, when they first hear this concept, they're afraid to use it and utilize this skill because they are afraid that their wife will say to them, you're not taking this seriously. You should be more concerned by this. There's a difference between taking something sincerely and seriously. You can be sincere in understanding her, by still using humor, but not take her seriously. Now, the best example I always give, I'll never forget this story, which is why I'm telling it to you. One of my clients, Rob, he was at a vacation with his wife and things were going pretty well. And then all of a sudden, they were on rocky territory, but things in the vacation were going relatively good. And she was getting ready to go out for dinner and he thought she was going to be in there for a while. He decided to pass gas because, he was going to go into the bathroom, he was going to walk outside. So he did it. And of course, she steps into the room right after he did it and she smelt it and she got angry, really angry. Now, Rob used the logic. He's like, well, you were in there and I know what to do and I don't want to step all the way outside and I thought you were going to be... You get the point, right? He was confronting her and it wasn't working, just made things worse. God bless his wife because his wife actually gave him the answer to this question. On the ride home, she said to him verbatim, and I'll never forget this. She looks at him in the eyes. He told me this. He goes, why can't you just make light of the situation sometimes? Sometimes when I'm upset, I want you to just laugh about it and make me feel better about it and not make it a big deal. She gave him the answer. And this is the secret to everything. You see, your wife, all of her complaints and criticisms, she's in a uncertain, anxious state. She doesn't feel loved. And by using humor, it lightens her state and makes her feel better. And then you can address the issue if she wants to. But I guarantee you, when you do this correctly, she won't even want to anymore. Now, let me give you a perfect example. I used to teach guys dating, and I would teach them about these tests as well and how to use humor and not respond in a very logical state. This humorous response on the highest level creates even a deeper emotional connection than this one. And it also conveys that you're in high value, that your frame is that, hey, it's not a big deal, right? Not a big deal. In her frame, it is a big deal. But because you're using humor, you actually pull her into your frame that it's not a big deal. All right, this is a very high status trait, and she wants to be with a high status man. Now, there's a show called Californication. Maybe a lot of you heard about it, but I'm going to play a perfect example, and we're going to show exactly how this plays out.
Hey.
So the first thing I want you to notice is the way he's kind of carrying himself. He didn't even notice the girl, and he's just having fun. He's in his own world. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. You see, as a man, he's focused on what he wants, and he's not reactive seeing a beautiful girl. He didn't even notice her. So that's the first thing I want to point out.
You know anything about wine?
Wine is fine, but whiskey is quicker.
Suicide is slow with liquor. Sabbath.
Close. Ozzy solo.
Oh,
But nice try.
thanks.
Now, when she first engages with him, he gives a very non-logical, humorous response that's amusing him. He doesn't care. He's in his own little world and he's having fun, right? And you can see the response from her. She goes at him again. And this time, the test comes in the form of talking about the cigarette smoking. Now, most guys in their logical, reactive state, they would say something like, oh yeah, I'm trying to quit. Yeah, I know it's bad for me. I need to stop. Because they want the woman's approval and they're putting themselves in a lower status state. But you see his response.
This stuff will kill ya.
Life will kill you. It's heavy. It'll make sense.
Life will kill you. It's nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. But responding that way conveys to the woman on a subconscious, indirect level that he is high status. He doesn't need her approval. And ultimately, that's what a woman wants from you when she tests you, that you are unreactive. Smash like if you enjoyed the video. Again, they're linked down below, limited spots each week to set up a call with me to learn additional skills, how to apply these to your wife to increase the level of communication you have with her, to end conflict, to increase passion and intimacy. Thank you for watching the video. Plenty of videos every single day. So press subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.